later session, in the other session, we will start with the minimalist program, basically. So hopefully we can finish the principles and parameters in this class. So it was last week, right? So I always like to do a very quick summary so that in case people might have forgotten where we are coming from or what we've done so far. I'm not going to start all over, of course, but for the principles and parameters theory of the government and buying, remember that the aim for that is towards the explanatory adequacy. That is, you want to be able to explain the language faculty itself. So that's just the summary of the principles and parameters. So the difference between that and the earlier theory is that with the earlier theory, we're only describing and giving rules. But now we want to be able to not just describe, but to explain the language faculty itself. So that is the major motivation for the government and binding theory. And we started with the different modules in the last class, right? So the different modules of government and binding of principal parameters, where I said that government and binding itself it just comprised of two of the different principles underlying the principles and parameters theory. Although the name government and binding has always been used, but we know it's just part of the different modules in that approach to syntax or theory to syntax. So we've looked at government itself, we've looked at binding. If you remember the three binding principles, principle A, principle B, and principle C. If you remember, maybe we should even use this to do a quick review of the last class. So can you can unmute yourself and just say something about any of the principles? So any of the binding principle, and then give an example. Anyone? So the principle A, principle B, principle C. Can anyone just pick one of those principles and say one or two things? Anybody? No one?
You want me to talk?
Yes, go ahead. Who is that?
Yeah. It's Abiodun Ibikunle.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. I think principle A says an anaphor must be bound in its GC, in its governing category.
Yeah.
That is like reflexive, himself, ourself, myself. So if I say I love myself, so myself there is an anaphor, it's a reflexive. So it must be co-indexed with I, who is going to bind it, because I will be an antecedent of the anaphor myself. So
Yeah.
myself must be bound in its governing category.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just stop there for others to talk.
Okay, thank you.
You want
And
me to
that is
talk
why,
about principle B? Okay.
yeah, you would do that now. So basically, that's why if you say, I think Adam loves myself, that's bad because now myself is no longer in the same clause or in the what we call governing category with I. So if you say, I think Adam loves myself, right? So myself cannot refer to I again because now it's far away. So there is like a close boundary. And that is why you cannot say, I think Adam loves myself. But you can say, I think Adam loves himself. Now himself can refer back to Adam because Adam and himself are inside the embedded clause, right? I think that Adam loves himself. So that is what principle A does. So basically the reflexive must be bound within its governing category. And one thing we must not forget is that what we are doing here is we are explaining the principles underlying language use, right? Language acquisition and the use of it. So all these theories, principles, and everything is just a way to be able to explain. So this is grammar and this is reality. So if this is what the language looks like or what language looks like, then we want to explain what are the underlying principles. Why should language behave that way? Why can't I say I love himself? And why must it be I love myself, for example? Or why can't I say Adam thinks Sam loves himself, whereby himself refers to Adam. but we know that it doesn't refer to Adam, it has to refer to Sam. So Adam thinks that Sam loves himself. So Sam loves Sam, basically. So all these things, this is language, right? And then we are trying to get principles to explain what is going on. So that is the aim of principles and parameters, right? So, and these are found in languages. So in Yoruba also, for example, I think we've seen Yoruba example during the last class. And because I'm also a Yoruba speaker, so in Yoruba, you find similar occurrence going on. I mean, you can try with your language too, where if you use a reflexive pronoun. So in Yoruba, you say something like, let me put it in the chat. If you say something like, okay, if I put it in chat, we would have to gloss it, but no, notwithstanding. So Adam ro pé Sam fẹ́ràn ara rẹ̀. Now look at something like this in Yoruba. So Adam, just do a quick gloss, things, and just say wait the that can discuss that later. Sam is fẹ́ràn, sorry, it should be N, not L. Yeah. Fẹ́ràn himself. Tones level. Yeah. So what is yeah, that's just a very simple gloss. So basically you have Adam thinks that Sam loves himself. That would be the translation. Adam thinks that Sam loves himself, right? So the MTS there is just the mid-tone syllable. That's just the mid-tone syllable. And people have called that possessive morpheme or whatever, but that's not our concern here. So if you look at that sentence, you see that himself refers to Sam, right? So ara there refers to Sam and not to Adam, even though both are male, right? Both are masculine, but we know that himself will refer to Adam, and that is to Sam rather, and that is because Sam and himself are in the same governing category, the same clause, just like Dr. Ibukli just said now, and not to Adam. So that is just principle A. Now, as we move on, if there is something I want you to have at the back of your mind was what I said earlier, very important, because that will help us to understand what we are doing here. And that is the fact that all these theories, all these principles are just ways to explain language, to explain what is going on, in the mind of the speaker, the grammar, whether it is grammatical or not, we have explanation for it. Basically, that's what we are doing. All right, so today we want to start looking at, I don't know if there's any question from last week. Anyone? Any question? Maybe you went through what we did last class. We looked at binding, we looked at barriers, if you remember, government. If you have any question, you can put in the chat or raise your hand, and then we can trash that question. Because of time, let's move on. So, theta theory and control. This is another model of the principles and parameters theory. This is another principle that underlies the use of the language. And with theta theory, I believe most of us, if not everyone here, understand when you talk about the theta rule, when something takes a role, it has maybe agent, team, which other roles do we have? Theta role, experiencer, recipient, and the likes. These are different theta roles, right? That's arguments. When I say arguments, primarily I'm talking about noun phrases that arguments take. These are different theta roles that argument take. And in one way or the way to understand theta role is when we look at predicates, that is the verb, right? So look at these different types of predicates. So understanding theta role comes with understanding the different function, or you can say different types of predicate that we have, or different types of verbs. Just to make it simple, we can just say different types of verbs, because verbs can, they combine with certain number of arguments. So verb combined with certain number of noun phrases. That's what that means. And we have verbs that are zero place predicates, like rain, right? Like snow. Zero place predicate means they do not take any argument. So if you want to say rain, you just say it rains. It rains. So what rain? So if I ask you the question, what rain? There is no argument there. It rains, basically. That it in that context is what we call expletive. That will be important later on. So we'll look at expletive too. So expletives are basically items that do not have any semantic import, basically. They are just empty. So we call them pleonastic, like they don't really have any semantic content, right? So with zero place predicates like rain, we assume that rain does not assign any theta role. That's what that means. So when a verb is zero place, it means it doesn't assign any theta role. But when it is a one place predicate, like to run, to joke, then that means that that verb assigns one theta role. It takes one argument. So if you have a sentence like Sam ran, Adam joked, so you just have one argument. So you cannot say Sam ran Dan or Sam ran Adam. No, it's not possible, because the verb run takes just one argument, isn't it? So it is a one-place predicate. The same with another one is the two-place predicate, like kick, like swallow. These verbs, they take two arguments, two noun phrases, basically. Now, take that with a pinch of salt. I'm using noun phrases because that is the simplest way. Of course, we know that verbs can take bigger constituents, like even a CP, like a complement phrase, and not just noun phrases alone, right? So, but for now, let's just stick with assuming that two-place predicates are verbs that take two arguments. For example, two noun phrases. So if you have kick, it means someone has to kick something, right? So Sam kicked the ball. Adam kicked the man or something, or basically you have the agent and you have what is being kicked, like the team, for example. So these are just the different types of predicates, and we know that certain one-place predicates combine with an expression which serves as agent, like I said earlier, like run, right? So someone ran, so Adam ran. It just as the agent. And look at 34 and 35. So in 34, we have example of one-place predicate, right? In 34, yes, one-place predicate. And the one-place predicate in 34, all the arguments are agents, right? So you have Adam ran, Adam is the agent, Adam joked, the horse galloped. So we have a one-place predicate with an agent. But then we also have other one-place predicates that take team, like 35. Like if you say Adam collapsed, Adam collapsed here, Adam is not the agent, Adam is the team. Something is happening to Adam. So when maybe something happened and then Adam collapsed. So Adam is the team of the predicate, the team of what is going on that is collapsing. Adam is not the agent in this case. So we can see that a one-place predicate can take either an agent, as in the examples in 34, or can take a team, as in the examples in 35. So if we say Adam appeared, that is also a team, or the horse fell. The horse fell. So the horse is not the agent, it's like the team. So something happened to the horse, which is falling, basically. So 34 and 35, all the predicates are one place, but the theta role of the one argument that these verbs are taking differ depending on where the argument starts from. And look at these two terminologies, which I'm not going to go through. I just highlight them because they are very interesting terminologies, and I mean people are really working on them. This is unnegatives and unaccusatives, and this is usually linked with one place predicate. So what we saw in 34 and 35, in 34, when you have an agent as the sole argument of a one place predicate, In that case, what we have is a case of on-negatives. While in 35, when it is a team that is the sole argument of the one place predicate, they are called on-accusatives. Why is it so? Remember that in 35, we have all the arguments as team and not agent. So we call them on-accusative because if we have a structure, the structure for this will look like, let me quickly give a quick structure. So let's use IP. And then what you have, the assumption would be that, so what I'm drawing now is 35A. So we are looking at the one place predicate where the sole argument is a team. So it is called unaccusative because that argument starts from an accusative position, but then we unaccusative it, like we take away the accusativity by moving it to a subject position. That is what that means. And that's why I want to give a tree to show how that happened. So let's just have a simple VP. Forget about the little VP for now. We've not even looked at that yet, so I won't go to that in this handout. So you have a verb, and then Adam is assumed to start from this position. We will not look at case, but by the time you look at case, we will see that the verb assigns accusative case. And how do we know? In English, for example, again, this is subjected to different views and arguments, but we know that the easy way to see, case and their forms in English is when you look at the pronoun system, right? So in English, it will be like, if you have accusative, Sam saw him, right? So him, and not Sam saw he, because he is nominative, but him is accusative. But because Adam is just a referring expression, that's why we don't know yet, right? We don't know what is going on here. We just Adam. But if we change it to pronoun, then we'll see what we are talking about, right? Okay, good. So I can even do that. So let's do that. So let's assume that this is still him. So we are using either Adam or him, the pronoun, to make it very clear. So the assumption is that the verb collapse. So permit me to just write. I think next time I'm going to probably use a tablet so that I can be able to. Oh no. All right. So collapse would be here as the verb. This is serious. So just please bear with me. This is just collapse. I'm not going to write it full. So now the assumption is that Adam originates from this position, an accusative position. But then we know that in 35A, what we have is not collapsed Adam. What we have is Adam collapsed. But how did that happen? We move Adam from this position up to the specifier of the IP, and then you have the Adam collapsed sentence. Now, why do we call this unaccusative? It is because, let's use the pronoun now. If we are moving him, of course, we cannot say him collapsed, right? We can't say him collapsed. This is wrong, but it will be what? He collapsed. So even when we say he collapsed, we still know that Adam is the same argument. So the assumption is that when him or Adam moves from this position of accusativity and moves to this position, what happens is that it is unaccusative. So it's no longer an accusative. It now has a nominative case. And we can see that with the pronoun, right? Because now we cannot use him, but we use he. I'm using pronoun because it gives us the form that we want to see, different form with respect to nominative and accusative. All right. So, but with respect to 34, where we have Adam ran, where Adam is the agent and not the team, the assumption is that, of course, it doesn't start from this position. No, it rather starts from a high position, and that's where the little vp comes in. Forget about that for now. But if you want to know more about that, you can ask me later, but I'm not going to go through that. And that's where this different name comes from, especially the unaccusative. So it's no longer accusative, it's now a nominative. All right, and that is for the one place predicate. We have also the two place predicate, and that one, of course, like I said, it means the verb will take two arguments. So it takes the agent and the team. So who kicked the cat? Adam. That is the person doing something, that's the agent. What did Adam kick? The cat. That is the team. Or you can call it the recipient, depending on what you want to. But I would rather call it the team in this case. So Adam kicked the cat. Sam swallowed the fly. Adam punched Sam. Basically, we have these predicates as two place predicate because they take two arguments and they assign theta role. So apart from those two roles that I've discussed, which is agent and team, of course, there are other theta roles like goal, source, experiencer, that I believe we must have heard about. I'm not going to go through all this, but with the goal, it's more like the direction of where something is going, right? While the source is where something is coming from, basically. So I bought the book from the market. Of course, from the market will be the source. That's where you bought the book from. Why goal is if you say, I gave the book to Sam. Sam will be the goal. That is the direction where the book is going, basically. All right. So theta roles are assigned by the verb, like we've seen. Not all of them, but we know that many of the theta roles, like agent, like the team, they are assigned by the verb. And intransitive, is there a question in the chat? What is the difference between team and patient? Good. So I guess that question came because of what I said earlier about, let me see again, 36A, for example. So patient basically can be anyone that receives an action or anything, basically. Any animate thing, let me put it that way, that receives action. So the cat can be a patient of whatever is going on, or it can, so you can also have a person. So if like this case in 36C, so Adam punched Sam. So of course, Adam is the agent, we know. Sam is the team, but Sam also can be the experiencer because he's the one experiencing what is going on here, the punching, right? So there is something that is called, which I don't want to go into, but I will just put it here in case you want to search for it. It's called, and maybe you must have probably have seen it somewhere, Utah, and that will probably help to explain that question. So Utah is the full meaning of Utah is uniformity of theta assigning hypothesis kind of thing. So what it says is that different position in the structure actually comes with different theta roles. So there are positions that some theta roles cannot occupy, like some theta roles cannot be assigned in certain positions. While in some other positions, you cannot, some positions theta role, for example, like the team is usually assigned in the complement of the verb, like here, like what we have here, right? So this is the verb and the complement is Adam. So usually you assign the team here. And then depending on the role or the function of the argument, it can either be a recipient, a patient, experiencer, right? So different other theta roles. But primarily, you have this position as the team role. So what this Utah does is that it says that our structure with respect to theta role is not just done haphazardly. It's in a way systematic, whereby certain positions are occupied by specific theta roles or theta, specific arguments that take specific theta roles. Okay. Yeah, so we've looked at one place predicate, two place predicate, and of course, we know that when it comes to the function of the verb, the one place predicates are usually the intransitives, right? Like Adam slept. It's just intransitive because no action is transferred. Nothing is transferred, intransitive. While transitives assign two theta roles, like what we saw what I just showed in 36, right? Those are transitive verbs because you have an agent transferring an action, while ditransitive are three-place predicates or verbs that assign three theta roles, basically. So even though thematic roles are something inherently semantic, because they are concerned with meaning, right? With what we've seen. It's like who is doing what is being done to someone, or where is an action, taking place, or who is receiving what, basically. In a way, it has meaning, it has semantics with it. But we know that they play important role in the syntax, and we can see that with 37. So what 37 shows is that theta role is not just semantic. I mean, primarily it does with semantics. It does with, it plays a role when it comes to meaning of the argument, that is the noun phrases, for example. Okay, let me stop using noun phrases. Let me just say argument now, because so that I won't constrain arguments to just noun phrases. But we know that syntax also plays a role. Now look at 37. So in 37, if you say Adam demonized, this is ungrammatical. Why? Because we know that demonized is a two-place predicate. It needs another argument. So if I just say Adam demonized, and then you ask me demonized what or demonized who, right? That would be like, it's more like a what question you want to know. Who did he demonize? Or if you say Adam put a book. Now, this demonized is a two-place predicate, right? But Adam put a book, definitely we already have two arguments. It means that it is not a two-place predicate, but rather a three-place. Because if it is just a two-place, this should be fine. You have two arguments. Adam put a book, but then it needs a third argument. He put a book somewhere, right? He put a book somewhere. Adam put a book on the shelf, for example. And that is why 37b is ungrammatical, because one argument is lacking. And because if one argument is lacking, this verb cannot assign, that is the theta role that is left to be assigned. And because that theta role cannot be assigned without an argument, then the derivation crashed. And in 37c, same thing. So Adam gave a book. Two arguments, but we know that gave, the verb to give, is a three-place argument, predicate. So Adam gave a book to Sam. Again, because there is a theta role that is not assigned, then this derivation crash. And all this leads to what we have in 39, the theta role criterion, or the theta criterion. So before I go to 39, what 38 shows is just similar to what we saw in 37, but in 38, it is bad because the verb is having more argument than required. We know that laugh is just a one-place predicate, and the predicate that it takes is an agent. So Adam laughed. Simple. You cannot say Adam laughed Sam. No, Adam laughed. One-place predicate. And so this is ungrammatical because this verb has just one theta role, but then we're having two arguments. And all this ungrammaticality and this interaction that we've seen between the different arguments and these verbs or predicates leads to this criterion in 39, which says each argument bears one and only one theta role. And each theta role is assigned to one and only one argument, basically. And what that means is that whenever a theta role is assigned to an argument, that argument can only take that one theta role. It cannot take any other theta role. Basically, that's what it means. So each theta role can be assigned to one argument, and then one argument cannot take more than two theta roles. So it means that if we have, let me see if I can give an example. So if you say something like, okay, we can even use 37a. Now look at 37a. Remember we said 37a, Adam demonized. Demonized is a two-place predicate, right? So this violates the theta criterion because we have a case where demonized has two theta role that in a way is being assigned to one argument, and that is a violation of 39 theta criterion, because theta criterion says that you can only assign one theta role to an argument. But in this case, because there is no second argument, it means that these two theta role that demonized has in a subcategorization frame would have to be given or assigned to one argument, and that is the violation of theta criterion. I hope this is clear. Let me see the chart. But 38 become, if you say Adam laughed. Yes, that's true. But then in that case, we know that it is no longer, so 38, it's no longer laugh assigning anything to Sam. It is the art. Adam laughed at Sam. At Sam, it's, a PP. And then the P can also, like preposition can also assign a theta role, basically. So yes, you are right. That can be a grammatical sentence. Someone has a question. Yes, please go ahead, Dr. Ajibore.
Yes, please. Just need to clarify. Looking at sentence 37A, if we say
37A,
Adam
okay.
demonized, Adam demonized the prince, for instance, we now have a predicate. Now, I'm trying to find out how predicate is conceptualized. You say that
Okay.
it becomes a two-place predicate, or is it one-place predicate?
Two-place. Demonize
So
is two-place predicate.
if it's two-place predicate, what are the predicates in that sentence? Adam demonized the principal.
Yeah. Good. So, when you, I think I know where your question is coming from or where it's going, because I think our normal understanding of predicate is when you have anything below the verb. I guess probably that's why you are saying that. But the agent, again, I've not gone through that in this class, but I believe you that you're asking this question, I know you know about the VP internal hypothesis, that the agent itself even starts within the VP, right? So whatever agent we see in this position, like the spec IP, with the VP internal hypothesis, it says that the agent starts within the VP itself, which means the little VP or the VP, it's already a proposition. And that is one of the things that semantics deal with, which is very interesting, right? That before you even have the TP, IP, whatever, that you want to do, the little VP already is and Chomsky says that, so actually that's what Chomsky says, that the little VP is like the minimal unit of a proposition, which means the agent, the team, everything have already been merged within the little VP. And so when you talk about demonize, coming to your example in 37A, Adam was internally merged within the VP. So it's part of the predicate, or part of the argument rather. And so we call demonize or any other verbs that are transitive, two-place predicates, including not just their object, but their subject as well. So I don't want you to see when we say two-place predicate by saying it as though we are saying whatever follows the verb are the different arguments that makes up the one place, two place. No, the agent inclusive, basically. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Did I answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. What is little VP? Yeah, I don't want to go into this, but I'll just tell you what it is, and then maybe you want to read more about it, and maybe I don't know if one of these class, if we have time, we can. So little VP is just it's usually the motivation for little VP comes with respect to languages that actually have causatives. They have morphemes. I mean, English is not a good example, even though English uses little VP, but there have been what's it called? Morphological evidence that shows that above this big VP, there is another thing that looks, or there is another morpheme that is verbal-like, that is a verbal-like element that is more like a causative in a way. So it's like saying, so if I say, let me see an example we can use. So yeah, if we say Adam demonized Sam, for example, it's more like saying Adam caused Sam to be demonized. So he caused Sam so there are languages that actually have a morpheme for that cause, to cause something to happen. When you are an agent means you cause something to happen. I remember when we were doing agricultural science, then there are what we call causative effects with respect to plants, and then the dispatching of different seeds. There is a way you can cause different seeds to, to grow in different places. That's just an example. But in this case, the agent is causing something to happen to the patient. So it's like the relationship is not that direct, but in a way there is a causing happening that the agent is involved. And then the team or the recipient is what is receiving that effect, basically. And that is where Little VP comes in, right? And although the initial motivation for Little VP is actually the place to place, like the position to place the subject. So when you have, let me give you just a simple structure. When you have the IP, even though I would love to use TP, but because I've not introduced that, let me still keep using IP. So the assumption is that you have a structure that looks like this, where instead of the big VP, there is what is little. So the V is a little VP. And then it is usually this specifier of the little VP that actually, that is where the subject is externally merged. That is the first merge position where it is joined. So V bar, the little V head, and then you have your big VP. So this is the way the structure will look like. Now, the assumption, like I said, is that the agent or the subject, like Adam, for example, is actually merged, or I keep using the word merge. I don't know if everyone understands that term, but basically you can say inserted, or yeah. So Adam would be here initially, and then you have, so I'm drawing the tree for 36A. So kick, the verb, would be here, and then the cat is in the complement of the V. Don't mind me, I'm just being lazy, so I'm using this. So the cat. Oh my. This writing is serious. Okay, so kick is here, and then the assumption is that Adam, so this is one of the when the split, or sorry, the VP internal hypothesis was proposed, right? And at the end, what happened is that those that proposed it saw that the big VP is not the only verbal element that is in the structure. There is actually a little VP. And not just, I think in the noun phrase also, like in the nominal domain, we also have the little NP having similar function. But basically the function of this is that there are languages that actually have morpheme that can actually occupy this position, more like a causative morpheme. So that is what little VP does. It both provides a position for the subject to occupy, and also it's empirically motivated, where there are morphemes in some languages where can occupy this position apart from the verb. There is verb, but then there is another morpheme that is causative morpheme, basically. All right. Where did you stop? Yeah. So don't forget theta criterion. We need this as time goes on. Remember, I said all these theories or principles, they are interwoven. So they are useful in each of the theories. So the theta criterion, again, remember, it says each argument must bear what? One theta rule. So you cannot assign two theta rule to an argument, and an argument can only theta rule can only be assigned to one argument and one argument alone. So just like demonized. So demonized cannot assign these two theta rule that it has to Adam, but it needs another argument to take the second theta rule. All right. Now, yeah, you're welcome. So, although every theta rule must be assigned to a constituent, we know that not all constituents are actually assigned theta rule. So I was expecting someone probably to ask that, what about adverbs? And it's simple, right? So look at 40. Adam beats Sam every day. Now, the prediction would be, if this were to be an argument, right? We know that beat is a two-place predicate. So Adam beat Sam. But then we are having another element here. And the question will be, what theta role will now be assigned to this? Because if beat has assigned theta role to Adam, agent, and also another theta role to Sam, then what would happen to everyday? And it's simple, and that is because everyday in the first place is not an argument. Remember, the criterion says each argument, not just each item in the sentence. So it is not any item or any constituent, but constituents that are argument. And how do we know constituents that are argument? These are constituents that can actually take theta role. Everyday cannot take any theta role. It's just everyday. It's an adverb. And that is why this sentence is 40. It does not affect our theta criterion. So this guy doesn't need any theta role because it is not an argument in the first place. All right. So theta role or theory does not only account for the number of arguments that a verb takes, but also the properties of those arguments. So that's what theta theory under the principles and parameters theory does, right? So it explains the relationship that we find between the verbs or predicates and the argument they take. And not only that, it also shows the kind of property that those arguments have, whether they are agent or team, patient, and the like. Adam put away the book. No, away is not an argument, because in that case, away is still an adverb. He put away. It's still an adverb. What you only have there is that the away is high in the clause. So away is not an argument. So usually noun phrases and complement clauses are usually the argument. Usually. And when I say complement clauses, I say that because if you have a sentence like you remember our sentential, so before I take the question, remember our sentential subject, when you have something like that Sam saw the boy annoys me. Now, you have a whole CP, a whole sentence as the subject, and not just a noun phrase. That Sam saw the boy is a whole sentence. And then annoys me, annoy is the verb, and then me is the object. So you see that if we restrict argument to just noun phrases, we'll be in trouble, because we can have cases where a whole sentence can be an argument of a verb. So that Sam beats the boy, that is the subject of annoy, and then it annoys me, basically. All right, go ahead with your question, please, before we move to control. Dr. Bikunle, please ask your question.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I just need more clarification on two things. Number one, the idea of zero place predicates.
Predicate. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned there that in zero place predicates, there is no argument, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So I'm just wondering what happened if I say it rained yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you considering that subject it as an probably explicit or dummy item? I don't know. Why don't you consider
dummy,
it
that's
as
the word.
Okay,
that's the word.
So
that's just what you just used now. It's a dummy item. So the it, and like I said, you will find that it's going to be very relevant when we start looking at control now. So it, if you say it rains, right? So all these are one place predicate. It rains, it snow. So the it there is just, you can call it a pleonastic or a dummy item, an expletive. We call it expletive. It's just in a way a placeholder, and that is because, for example, some languages like Italian or languages that are pro-drop, they don't need it. But in English is not really a pro-drop language. It's not even a pro-drop language, right? So it needs like a dummy item to fill the subject position, and it doesn't have any semantic impact. And how you will know is when you have WH question. If I say what snow, can you answer by saying it's snow? No, it doesn't make sense. If I say what snow or who snow or who rain, doesn't make sense. Or what rains, and that is because the WH phrase itself has a semantic what's it called? Content, is a semantic content, because it presupposes that there is an entity that does whatever you're saying. But in this case, we know that rain, unlike run, if I say who run or who ran, that makes sense. Someone ran, Adam ran. But who rain, except we're talking about reign of a king, but we know this one is a reign of rain falling. You see? So there are different ways to test when you have a predicate, whether it is one place or two place predicate. And one of it is just what I use now, WH, because WH have semantic content. And we know that zero place predicates do not take any argument, which means even the it, the explicit that we see with them, they are just dummy item. They don't have any semantic import. But syntactically, they are needed. Okay. That's why we need them. Yeah, they need them in syntax, but not semantics.
So my second question is this. Apart from predicates, you mentioned preposition as another thing that can assign theta role, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So they are the only two, they are the only item that can assign theta role, right? Or do we have more items that can assign theta role?
Yes, we have more. We have more. Certain complementarizers can, like off. Off can assign theta role. Just that I'm not going to go through that in this what's it called, handout. But there are certain complementarizers that actually they play a role. Like you need them to do one or two things. There's a question to take 3 place. If in Adam put away. Okay, I see your point. Away is not an argument. Then what's the? Okay, yes. I get your point now. Yeah, I didn't get that question before. And thank you for that clarification. Yes, so let's go back to that question, which is about Adam put away the book. Yes, you are right. You're right. In this case, away is like the goal. Is the goal here. So he put it somewhere, right? So it's like saying Adam put the book on the shelf, basically. So yes, you are right. I hope this is fine with I think it was Dikra that first asked the question, and then Abul made the clarification. Yes, you are correct. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at control. Please don't forget what we just discussed about expletive. It will be very important when we talk about control now, and you will see why I say so. So what we saw with theta role is that they relate, right? Like the verbs with the different arguments. And we've seen that theta roles can also relate with what is known as control. And that's what we're going to see now, that theta role also plays a role within control. So this shows the interrelatedness that is between these different modules of grammar. Binding, theta role, control. You will see how they are interwoven. So when you cannot leave one and just say you want to deal with the other, because in a way, what you know in theta role will help when you are discussing control, and that's what you will see now. So let's look at expletive that we've discussed to an extent already, right? So with expletives, we can explain what is going on. If remember I said that expletives they are not arguments, basically. Like they do not have any semantic impact or import, right? And that is what theta role tells us, because it doesn't, expletives do not take any theta role. With that knowledge, then we can see what goes on with expletives in sentences like 41. Now, before I explain what is happening in 41, don't look at this sentence, which I have said a lot already, right? So expletives are said to lack semantic import because they only play a syntactic role. They are more like a placeholder in English, for example, or even some other languages that do not allow pro drop, right? Let's use Yoruba, for example, or any of your language, maybe Igbo. If you want to say it rains and you want to say rain, in Yoruba will say ojoro, which means rain, kind of, or rainfall, anyway you want to call it, right? So many languages will actually do that way. Many languages will say rainfall, using rain as a noun and not the verb rain. So it will be like rain fall or rain rains. So check your language and you can drop in the chat how you will represent the sentence "it rains." I want to see different languages. You can just put the way it is in your language and then just give a little gloss of it. And then you will see that most of these languages or African languages, it will be rain as the noun, rains as the verb, or rainfall. Usually, most of our languages do not really have, this expletive that we use in English. But of course, some languages do. And languages that are pro-drop will just say rain, and that is fine. So let's look at 41 with respect to expletive. And we've been seeing it, right? But there is another expletive which is there. So not just it, but there is also another expletive. But we are going to focus here on it. So look at 41. Now, we know that the verb try, to try, is a two-place predicate. And how do we know? Because it takes two arguments. And this is interesting with what I said earlier. Remember I said that we must not constrain the term argument to just noun phrases. Because now, try, it takes one argument, which is Adam, which is a noun phrase, but then it also takes a non-finite clause as the second argument. Adam tried to eat the food quickly, basically. So this is the first argument, and this is the second argument, which means that an argument can also be a non-finite clause. So Adam tried to eat quickly. So try is a two-place predicate, and you take those two arguments. On the other hand, the verb seem is a one-place predicate. And I know this is going to raise some eyebrow, and I'm going to explain it. Now, seem is a one-place predicate, even though we have Adam here, and then we have what looks like, not even looks like, it is. What we have a non-finite clause, right? So we have to eat the food as a non-finite. So on the surface, we might want to say that, same should be a two-place predicate, right? Because you have Adam, you have another, just like what I said with 41a, we try. But that's not the case. Why? Because if you now compare 41b with 41c, if this position is a theta position, then how are we going to explain what is going on in 41c with expletive? Don't forget that we say expletives do not take any theta role. Why? Because they are not arguments. They don't have any semantic import. I will recapitulate so that we can be on the same page. What we are looking at is the different verb between, that is the difference between try and seem with respect to the expletive it. The underlying assumption, or not even assumption, the underlying knowledge that we must have is that expletives are not arguments in the sense that they do not take any theta role. Now, with that knowledge, knowing that try is a two-place predicate, it takes Adam, and then it takes this non-finite clause. Seem, on the other hand, we say it is a one-place predicate, but even though we have Adam here, and then we have a second, like what would say the second argument, but that is not what is going on. What is actually going on is a case where Adam originates from this position, that is within this clause, and then it's raised. That is what we call raising. Very important. I hate this. Oh my. All right, this is what is called raising under control, or under CP, rather, under CP. So the assumption is that Adam actually raised from within this non-finite. And when Adam was still in this non-finite, that is when seem already assigns the theta role to the whole clause. It is after that assignment that Adam now raised to this position. So it's not taking any theta role in this position. It already has everything in it from when it is inside this non-finite. And that is why 41C is grammatical. Because now, if 41C, if it can occupy this position and be grammatical, then it shows that sim is not assigning any theta role to it. Do you get the logic? Because if sim is assigning theta role to this position, it should not be able to occupy it. Why? Because it cannot be assigned theta role. Maybe if you look at 49D, maybe this will explain better. Remember, we say try, on the other hand, is a two-place predicate. That means it assigns to two theta role. Unlike sim, that assigns one theta role to the non-finite complement. Try assigns two theta roles. If try assigns two theta role, that means we can explain why 49D is ungrammatical. So if you say he tried that Adam ate, you can see in this case that Adam is now in its original position inside. We put it inside the embedded clause here. So if you say he tried that Adam ate the food quickly, that's ungrammatical. Why? Because this position is a theta role position and it cannot occupy it. It cannot be assigned theta role. So if we force it, if we put it in this position, then we have an ungrammatical sentence because try is a two-place predicate. It needs to assign one theta role and the second theta role. So in assigning the second theta role, it meets an expletive that cannot take a theta role. But same is one-place predicate. It only assigns theta role to this embedded clause, that is to this finite complement clause. And that is why it can occupy this position. Why? Because this position, don't forget, same is only one place predicate. It can only assign one theta role. And once it assigns this one theta role, this position is just, it is because in English, it cannot be empty. And then we use expletive. And then we are good because expletive does not need any theta role. But in 49D, we cannot do the same because this position is a position that needs to be assigned a theta role because try is two-place predicate. And so having it there makes it ungrammatical because it cannot be assigned a theta role. All right. Semantically, it is representing. No, I won't say semantically, I will say syntactically. So if it's syntactically, yes, syntactically, but not semantically, because when you bring in semantics, then it means it should be able to should be able to take theta roles, basically. Adam seemed is ungrammatical. Which one? Which example do you mean? Of course, Adam seems is ungrammatical, and I already told you why that is the case. The answer to that comment is that, remember, I said Adam would have to originate from a lower non-finite clause. So you cannot just say Adam same. Adam has to originate from somewhere below before it moves there. So you cannot just say Adam same. If you say Adam same, then it means the position where Adam came out from is no longer there, and we don't want that. You see what I mean? That's why Adam same cannot be grammatical itself in the first place. Okay, question. Yeah, go ahead, Doc. Dr. Bickley, we can't hear you in case you are already talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, sorry, I seems to need more explanation on what is then meant by argument, because if I look at question sentence number 41A and 41B, there. 41A and B.
Yes, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wonder why you want to like say to eat the food quickly is an argument. You understand what I mean? That's
Yes.
That infinitive clause there. Is it also counted as an argument? For me, I would just be looking at food there as the argument of as the only argument apart from Adam. And
yeah, but food will be the argument of eat, not try.
The argument of eat.
Yes, so eat the food. So who ate the food? Adam.
Yes.
But what did Adam try to do? To eat the food. That's another way to test. So what did Adam try to do? We know that there are verbs that are called raising verbs or even control verbs, right? Now, verbs like try are actually control verbs. Why verbs like sim, they are raising verbs.
Raising. Yeah.
Now, and I mean, I'll get to that about in case someone wants to is asking what do I mean by that. I'll get to that. But I believe for now. So we try, right? So if you say Adam tried, it means he tried to do something. Except if you just okay, of course, we can say Adam tried the food. That means he tasted, right? Maybe he tried the food, or maybe he just tried the food, right? That is fine.
Yeah.
But in this case, if you say Adam tried, what did he try to do? Or what did he try? He tried to eat the food quickly, or he tried to eat the food. In fact, we can take out this quickly because quickly is just an adverb. So Adam tried to eat the food. Now the food, let's be careful. The food is not the argument to try. It is, don't forget, this is an embedded, this is a non-finite clause itself. It's a clause on its own, but it's non-finite. And because it's a clause on its own, there is already a non-finite verb to eat, where the food is the argument to the verb to eat. So we have two verbs here, try and to eat, right? So two verbs.
Yeah.
So the first verb, try, it takes the whole of the non-finite clause as its complement. While the second verb, the non-finite verb to eat, takes the food as its complement. So in this case, try takes both Adam and the whole non-finite complement as its second argument and not the food, basically. Is that clear?
Yeah, yeah. So the try there, so is he assigning any rule to that finite clause?
Yes. So you have Adam, right? Adam tried to eat the food.
Yeah.
So the assumption is that basically, of course, Adam. In fact, this is no, I don't want to jump ahead of myself. So what is going on here is, okay, let me use 42. Look at 42, since we are already talking about control and everything. Okay, no, don't look at 42 yet. We'll jump. But let's put it this way, right? When you say, I can ask you the question, what did Adam try? Right? You can answer by saying he tried to eat the food.
Eat the food, yeah.
That's one way. Or you can say he tried the food. If just, it just, and that one we know that it has a meaning where you are saying maybe he just tried that food, right? Maybe something he has not eaten before, he tried the food. But in this case, he tried to eat the food. Now, Adam, and this is the interesting thing about control. Adam is both the, oh, I hope I'm not making this even more complex. He's both the subject of try and the subject of eating, because he's the one eating the food. And that is where this guy comes in, this pro.
Okay.
That's where this pro comes in. Because what we assume is that there is a pro in this second, that is in this non-finite clause, that Adam is controlling.
Okay.
Unlike reason, remember I said with reason, Adam actually originates in this position inside the non-finite clause, and then it raised to this position.
Okay.
But with control, Adam is base generated in this position and controls a pro, a big pro. A big pro just means a pronominal item, which is semantically, phonetically null, but semantically contentful.
Okay.
I'll say that again. So the big pro, okay, you know what, Doc, let me take it a step at a time. I'll get to big pro, and then maybe that would
I wanted to say that too. Maybe when you get there.
So
but
that
it's getting more clearer now.
Pro, and then people are looking at, and people will be saying, what is this pro that I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Now, one thing I want to just pick from everything here, if there's anything you want to pick, is that try is two-place predicate, sim is one-place predicate. And because try is two-place predicate, that is why 49D is ungrammatical. Why? Because try has assigned one theta rule to the embedded clause, but it needs to assign another theta rule because it's two-place. But now we have it there. And that's not possible because we know that it cannot take a theta rule.
Yeah.
That is why we have that ungrammaticality. But in 49 and 41C, 41C is fine. Why? Because sim is one place predicate. So it can be here. Because nothing, no theta role will be assigned to this position. The single theta role that this one place predicate sim has already been assigned to this embedded clause.
Okay.
So it can be here. So we are fine. And that is what that predicts. It predicts that it should be. So if we have a one place predicate, and that predicate, that verb, is as assigned theta role to the complement, then we predict that the subject position can be occupied by it because nothing else will be assigned to it, right? That's a prediction. Yeah. That's why we have 41C as grammatical. But if we have a verb that has two theta role, the prediction is that both positions must be occupied by semantically contentful words like arguments. And so if one position has been assigned, that is, this first theta role has been assigned to this embedded clause, the second position, because try, remember, is a two-place predicate, it must also assign the second theta role. And so when by the time it gets to this point, there is no argument here. It is not an argument. So we have an ungrammatical sentence because it cannot take a theta role. Now, look at this point. We, however, with what we just saw now, we have an issue at hand. And the issue is that look at 41A again. Now, in 41A, we have a case where, remember I said predicates or verbs assign theta role, right? Yeah. Now, in 41A, we have a case where it seems that Adam is taking two theta role because it's both, remember I said it is both the agent of try and also the agent of it. So we are in trouble here because we are saying that one argument cannot take two theta role. It can only take one theta role. So if this one argument, Adam, is both an argument to try and also an argument to it, does it mean we are saying it's getting two theta role? Because each of these verbs must assign theta role to it. You see what the problem is now? Yeah. That is against our theta criterion. Theta criterion says an argument must take one theta role. So it means if it takes one theta role from try, it must not take one theta role from it, or vice versa. If you take theta role from it, it can no longer take theta role from try. But we know that it's actually being generated very high in this position. So what is the solution? The solution is that Adam actually receives one theta role. But there is a pro that is now within, let me clean this a little, it's looking rough, then we can make the pro and give it a position. Now, good. So our concern now is 41A. So what is going on now is that there is a pro. Remember that this is a clause on its own, non-finite. So the assumption is that there is a big pro within the non-finite clause. And it is this big pro basically in this position. This is where the position is. It is this big pro that is now taking the theta role. So it is a two-place predicate also. So it assigns one theta role to the food and assigns the second theta role to the big pro. So with this, we escape the issue where Adam is assigned two theta roles. We see that now. So the big pro is the one actually being assigned that theta role and not Adam. Adam on its own is getting just one theta role from it. Right. Now, but where does control now comes in? This is where control comes in. Where control comes in is that control now says this big pro is actually controlled by Adam. That's the structure in 42. So in 42, we have Adam being assigned theta role by try, and this whole clause is getting the second theta role from try, but we know that it also is a verb that has two theta roles. And so it assigns one theta role to the food, and it assigns the second theta role to a pro. And this pro is controlled by Adam. This is control. That is what control is about. So control is basically a case where a contentful argument controls an empty argument, like a phonetically or phonologically null argument, basically. So we escape the fact that Adam is now being assigned to theta role. No, it's assigned only one, but it's a pro that gets the theta role from it. That is what control does. Let me check the chart.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's clear now. Now, what's the maximum number of theta role that an item can assign? Like, for example, a predicate can assign. Is it 2?
Sorry, you said what's the maximum?
The number of theta role that probably a predicate can assign. Or those theta role assigner, what's the maximum number of theta role they can assign to an argument?
It's not just 2. Remember, we have 3 place predicate as well. They're transitive.
Yeah, so okay. So a verb can assign up to 3 theta role.
Yeah. In fact, that's a good question you just asked, because it raises other questions, like what is the maximum, right?
Yeah.
Or even the minimum, of course, will be 0, right? Like we have the the 0 place predicate like rain. But then the question is, what's the maximum? And there is no clear-cut answer to that. I think what we'll probably say to that is language. I mean, it will be language specific. So we might find languages that have many other what's it called? Maybe theta roles. But as of now, I think what most language ends with just the transitive, where you have just 3 arguments, right? Most language end with that, the transitive, basically. So with going with that, we might say tentatively that you have just 3 theta roles or just 3 place predicates, basically.
Okay.
Yes, someone said something on the chat that control means same reference. Yes, that's it. It means same reference because the pro refers to Adam. So Adam controls the pro. The pro is still Adam, and though, yes, you're right. The pro is still Adam. But in this case, it's like what we did is just to have like a null element that is co-indexed. Just like when you say Adam loves himself. Himself is still Adam, but both of them can take different what's it called? Different theta role or even different case. Adam would be accusative, nominative. Himself will be accusative, even though they have the same reference. So the logic still stands. Okay, please go ahead with your question, Dr. Jiboye.
Sorry to take us back. I still need a little explanation on why it is null. Because if it is syntactically correct, it, we know it from primary school that it's a pronoun.
Okay.
So which means it has some meaning. It's representing a nominal that is not explicit. So if that's the case, which means it has some, it can be assigned some theta roles. That's what I want some clarification on, since theta roles are assigned to arguments. So which means it representing a certain argument that is not explicit.
Okay.
So I need some clarification on that.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that the it here at expletive is different from the it pronoun. Very important. We must distinguish that they're not the same. They have the same form, but they're not the same, right? So it's just like you can say they are homophonous kind of, but they have different function. And in languages, we see many of that, right? So one way to make that even clearer is the there. You know, I said the THERE is also an expletive, right? Now, we know that you can also have demonstrative there.
Yes.
So there. But if you say something like there is a boy. There is a boy does not mean the there of demonstrative pronoun. No. It's just an expletive. So the same with the it. Yeah. So it pronoun is different from the it. It's just that it has the same form. And there are languages where there are different forms actually.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, yeah, just like the true infinitive is not a preposition. You're right. Yeah. All right. So let's wrap it up. Now, what we've seen is that pro is controlled by the subject, and that is where control comes in. The fact that it has the same reference, and then you can just say this is like the antecedent of this pro is controlling it. But pro can also be arbitrarily controlled, like 43. So if you say to be a good linguist, be disciplined. To be a good linguist, be disciplined. We know that there is a pro here, but the pro is arbitrarily controlled. That means it's like saying you to be a, so I'm talking there has to be a reference, even though it is not mentioned in the sentence. So maybe I'm talking to someone, I'm saying you to be a good linguist, you have to be disciplined, basically. So that is arbitrarily controlled. So it means pro can be arbitrarily controlled, whereby the antecedent or whatever it is the reference is not in the immediate sentence or clause, but of course it is in the context, the pragmatics. Or the non-arbitrarily controlled, like what we saw in 42, right? So this one is not arbitrarily controlled because there is actually an overt reference in the sentence. Adam is controlling the pro. Okay. If you are interested in this, maybe I should just say this very briefly. If anyone of you is interested in about this issue of pro, CP, control, and raising construction, please, you can message me. Well, my WhatsApp number is in the group. I can send you an handout. I have an handout that I taught last semester on this control and raising. But I can't go through everything here. It's very interesting. You see how control works and raising. All right. Pro. Okay, I'm not going to go to 44. We can just go through that because of our time. So importantly, we must distinguish between pro, the big pro, and the little pro. Very important. This is just a pro drop. This is for pro drop languages. They are not the same. So this big pro, that's why we write it with capital letter. It is when you have control construction, where there is a reference that is controlling the big pro. Why this small pro are usually used in pro drop languages like Italian, Spanish. And this small pro are just, they are in themselves, of course, contentful. It's just that in those languages, you can drop the reference, basically. So they're different. They're not the same. The big pro and the... So this little pro, the pro drop languages, they don't need to... In fact, they are not controlled. They don't need to be controlled. Unlike the big pro. The big pro has to be controlled. The little pro does not need to be controlled. So take note. Maybe you might be seeing in the literature, big pro, small pro, and you are like, what's the difference? The difference is that little pro is used for pro drop languages like Italian and Spanish, where you drop the pronoun. For example, if you have a sentence like, in English, people have used this small pro to talk about imperatives, like get out, where you now have, it should be like you, I'm talking to you, you get out, right? So people have used that to say English also has, this is also a pro drop language. That's debatable, right? So saying that you has been dropped, and then you just have the imperative. But the question that we ask in such cases is that why is it limited to imperative? This is one of the ways to make critical analysis of different debates. So why should it be restricted to imperatives? Why not in a declarative? Why can't we just say eat food? If I just say eat food, that would automatically become imperative and not declarative. But there are languages where whether imperative, whether declarative, whether whatever, they can drop the pronoun. So English is not a pro drop language. Okay, this is the last module. Case theory and government. So with case, maybe you've been hearing me saying nominative, accusative, what is why, right? So that is just basically what case does. And of course, if you look at 45, let me look at if there's anything, question. Okay, no question. All right, good. So yes, if you're interested, like I said, I can probably also drop it in the WhatsApp group for the control if you want to look at the control handout. So look at 45.
Give us a classwork now for us to say some things in our different languages. Is it still applicable? Still
Yes.
relevant?
Do you have it?
Yes, I dropped it on the chat from
Let me see. Urobo. I've worked on Urobo once. I can't even remember anything. Okay, so rain. So if you look at, I hope we can all see the chart. So if you look at the chart in Urobo, what you have here is rain, it fall. Okay, wow, interesting. So basically you have, okay, go ahead, please explain it.
Osioro, rain,
Okay.
it fall. So rain,
Mhm.
osio, there's a reduplication of the O, and it's a resumptive pronoun and also functioning as an aspect, telling you that the rain is falling. Osio, osio, oro, but
Yeah.
they now convert it to osioro.
So
So
there's
that's
even
what it
tonal reflex in a way. If I get the way you are
Yeah,
pronouncing it, there's a tonal reflex actually.
yes, there is.
Okay, interesting. So basically, what you have, I can see a phonologist just unmute himself. Mr. Sam, you want to say something? Maybe because I talk about the tonal reflex.
Yes,
Phonology people they always,
that's very true. That's very, very
yeah,
interesting actually.
yeah,
Very, very interesting. I'm really, really interested in that.
yeah.
And I think I will reach out to her.
Okay,
That's interesting. But I think it's a down step. So I think there is a down step
yeah,
on the
yeah,
yes, on that particular tone, and it is
yeah.
affecting the whole process, which is
Mm, mm,
interesting.
mm.
Yeah.
I don't want to, that thing you just said now, I have questions on that about the down step, but because of time, maybe we can talk about that later. So the question is, you can just have it in your mind, is that, what are the triggers to down step? Like what motivate down step? I know you can have maybe like different, maybe subsequent or low tone, but then
So
is it that you would have
it's a down step will be like you have a floating low tone down stepping. You have
yeah,
high
down
high,
stepping?
you have
Mm-hmm.
high low high. No, you have high high, but then there is a
Mm-hmm.
low floating tone, a tonomorph that is converting this second high to a down step.
Down
So you
step.
have like three I technically, and then the middle one is being affected by a high tone. So what you have in that melody, it's a high, but it is down stepped.
Okay, so if you
So
have
you
something
can
like high,
increase too, like in
low,
Yoruba, Olojojo. You can
mm-hmm.
have Remi Do. Do that is on the second one is an upstep as a result of the relating segment too. You can have upstep, you can have downstep. High goes down, low goes up in terms of melody. Yes, maybe later we'll
Yeah,
talk
so
about
with
so that I
down
don't
step,
take
you
your
would have
time.
like alternating tones in a way.
Yes,
Like,
so there are a lot of questions around this, and it is very confusing. Some people say declension in some way,
yeah,
but
declination. That's what I wanted to
yeah,
say. Yeah,
that is
declination.
that is what you are. But you can think about it that a high tone that is going down is a down step
Mm.
in terms of
Okay,
perception. It's
okay.
supposed to be high, but it's sounding low. It's sounding low. But you have a
Mm.
low tone that's supposed to be low, but it's sounding high. That is an upstep. That's a
Okay,
very friendly way of differentiating them.
yeah. So basically, there is something like sensing that down step of the high tone. That is like a preceding low tone, kind of.
Yes, yes,
Okay, like a
yes,
trigger. Okay.
yes, yes.
All right, thank you. So we've mixed syntax we've done phonology a little now. All right. So yes, thank you very much, Dr. Ajiboye, with that. Very interesting, really. That is actually a case of raising. What you just showed in your language, that is raising actually. Okay. Case. So 45 is just what you have it. So remember I said in English, we see the different case, the form, when you look at the pronoun, right? That's why in 45A, Adam saw him, fine. But you cannot say, you cannot say him saw Adam, right? Why? Because we know that this position is accusative, but this position is nominative. And him is an accusative pronoun. So when you take accusative pronoun to a nominative position, that's not possible. And so that's why him saw Adam is bad. But he saw Adam is fine. Why? Because now you have a nominative form of the pronoun in the nominative position. And then Adam saw he is also bad. Why? Because now you are bringing a nominative pronoun to an accusative position. So you can see the different, form. It's grammatical or non-grammatical depending on the case that it's assigned. And in English, pronoun is like the best form, place to look at. And the short case theory is guided by what is called a case filter. And what case filter says is basically what we have in 46, which says every phonetically realized NP must be assigned whether an abstract case or a morphological case. In fact, mostly an abstract case actually. Morphological case, that's another, there are languages that actually have morphological case. English, people have said, even though English, in the pronoun, it shows like different morphology, right? Different form, but there are languages that actually show overt morphological marking of case, like German, for example. You have overt morphological, there are other languages also. Many of our languages like Yoruba does not do that. Yoruba does not have like a morphological form of case, except for the pronoun also, just like English. You see, but there are languages where there is like a specific morpheme. Whenever you have accusative, you get that morpheme. When you have nominative, you get that morpheme. So those are like morphological case. But regardless, what case filter does is that take note of this, phonetically realized NP. That means whenever it is overt, then it must be assigned an abstract case. And so case is said to be assigned under government. So look at 47. So Adam introduced him to her. See that now? So in this way, I remember when we spoke about government earlier, we linked government to C command. So when you say Adam introduced him to her, that means Adam introduced him. So introduce is the governor of him. And so it assigns case, accusative case to him. And then to her also, we also have another case. So this one is debatable. You can say it assigned accusative or dative. So Adam introduced him to her. While Adam himself, it gets a nominative case. Now, let me, before someone asks me a question, I'm going to answer that question. Maybe you have it in your mind already. That if case is assigned under government and we say C command, then how does Adam is assigned nominative? Because Adam is not, at this point, is not realized under introduced. It is above it. And the simple answer to that, if you want to know more, we can talk about later, is that there is a T. Remember, in our structure, if we use IP or TP, definitely in the VP internal hypothesis, Adam would be realized. Remember this little VP that we did? Where is it? Yeah, Adam is realized in this spec, in the spec of this little VP, remember? But then there is a high P or a TP, depending on whatever structure you want to use, whether TP or IP. And then it is assumed that it is actually the I that is assigning accusative case. So government is realized, C command is realized. Why? Because when Adam is first merged, it is merged inside the VP, and then when it gets the case, you can assume that the case is strong, and then that's why Adam can now raise to this position. A lot of things going on. Okay. So that is it for case filter. So if you consider 48, A and B, the difference is that if you look at 48A, for R to go to the market seems important. Sorry, 4 is the one assigning case to R in this case. And that is why 48B is ungrammatical. Because now there is no governor. You have a phonetically realized NP that cannot be assigned case by anything. So R to go to the market seems important, not possible. Remember our case filter. It says every phonetically realized NP must be assigned to an abstract case. And now we have a phonetically realized NP which cannot be assigned any case. Why? Because there is no governor, nothing to assign case. So it's ungrammatical. Now, at this point, we can actually see the beauty of the intricacies behind the P and P theory. You would notice that different.
Sorry, can I just ask a
Please go ahead.
Because looking at that 48B again, it reminds me of how children learn languages from a practical experience I had of my younger brother.
Okay.
When he was small, he would say, "Otomona shere." Child, down. Child, sleep.
Okay.
You know, can we use it to express, to explain the process of learning language? Because what he was doing was to call pictures, bring pictures of what is in his mind without knowing how to organize the words. But we know that what he's asking is that the younger sister should be put down to sleep. And then he will now add Gaga, Uku, that is me, back. Put me on your back. Can we use this to explain some things about how language is learned?
Yes, language acquisition. Yes, it's called root infinitive. I can send you a very short paper on it. And root infinitive is saying that children, when they're acquiring languages, they go systematically. They tend to like they scrape up the morphemes, the bound morphemes, and just go with the basic form, regardless of the time and everything that the verb's supposed to show. So they are called root infinitive. I'm very shocked that Urobo is showing that,
right?
given the kind of morphological system that it has. But I will send a paper in the chat now to
please do.
to corroborate that. Yes.
I think I will need it. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So that has been answered. I don't need to go through that again. So now what I want to show with this last example in 49 is I've been saying all these models, in a way, you might think it's independent. No, it is not. Like, they are not independent of themselves. They are actually interdependent. Like when you look at one model, what you know about the second model actually applies or can even help you in the other models, like in the other theory. And that's what you're going to see in 49, right? So let's look at 49a. If you say Adam expected Sam to hurt himself, that is our main sentence here. So Adam expected Sam to hurt himself. Now, we can actually use X-bar theory to explain why 49b is ungrammatical. If you say Adam expected Sam to ambition himself, that is not fine. Why? X-bar theory explains that, and that is because ambition is a noun, and we know that himself is also a noun that must be selected by a verb. Remember our S-bar structure. This is our S-bar structure. Again, in case maybe you've forgotten, it's when you have XP, and then there is a spec. And then you have your X bar, right? And then there is the head, the X. And then you have a YP. Now, this is just, remember we say that this X is just generic, so it can be NP, VP. So if this is a VP, right? Of course, we know that this will be a V, the head, which projects as a VP. And this will be the NP, the YP will be the NP. So in this case, himself would be here. But we know that ambition is not a verb. So if we cannot have ambition here, it has to be a verb. And that is why 49a is fine, because hot is a verb. So X-bar theory explains why 49b is bad, because ambition as a noun does not or cannot select for an NP. It's a verb that selects an NP. So X-bar theory explains why 49b is ungrammatical. 49c, binding theory, explains the ungrammaticality. So Adam expected Mary to hurt himself. So I'm going to throw this to the house. What can help us with 49c? The answer is there already, but just to explain. If binding theory is what explains 49c's ungrammaticality, how? Which of the principles? Who can explain that for us? 49c. Anyone? So why is 49c ungrammatical based on binding theory? Or you can even pick any of the remaining examples. You can pick 49d, you can pick 49e. You can use N, you can explain. Anyone? Anybody? Please, someone should say something. Now you're making me feel.
Can I say something?
Please go ahead.
Okay, I think why it is not grammatical is because the himself, the reflexive pronoun himself, it does not refer back to Mary.
Yes. Yes. You're very
Yeah,
correct.
that's what I have to say.
Actually, I don't know who is. Please, can you say your name so that?
Onyinye
Okay.
Favor.
All right. Thank
When
you.
you are sharing that, share it to this angle, Mr. Dan.
Eh?
I said when you are sharing that, share it to this angle too.
Which one?
I don't know.
Don't worry. All right. Yes, you're right. It's about the reflexive pronoun. But remember principle A, that is reflexive, that it must be bound in its what? In its local domain. And this is the local domain, right? Mary ought himself, or Mary ought himself. And we know that himself does not refer to Mary. It doesn't refer to Mary, so it's ungrammatical. And of course, it cannot also be Adam, because Adam is no longer in the bounding category. It's now in the governing category, it's now in the metric clause. It's not in the immediate clause of himself. So that's binding, explaining the ungrammaticality of 49C. And in 49D, theta theory. Anybody? Why is theta theory? How does theta theory account for? Don't forget, all these theories are just to account for the way language is processed and the underlying principles. So what do you think about 49D? Why is it ungrammatical? It was actually something we dwelt on a lot. Why do you think 49D is ungrammatical? Based on theta theory. Adam expected there to ought himself. This was similar to some questions that were asked. Let me see, someone is saying something. Yes, that's the answer. So because there is an expletive, that is it. Remember that theta theory says that you assign theta role to every argument. But now we have an argument, we have an item here that is not an argument, and it's here. So it cannot be assigned theta role. So ought is a two-place predicate. Someone ought something or ought himself. So Adam ought himself. So you cannot use there because ought needs to be assigned two predicates. Sorry, two arguments. So it assigns to himself. And then in this case, it would actually assign to a pro. Remember, the big pro. That's what it will get here and not there. So there cannot be here because it's an expletive. That's why. All right. 49E, case theory. Anyone? Adam expected I to ought myself. How does case theory explain 49E? Why is 49E ungrammatical? Because of this guy. Simple.
Yeah,
right?
because of the I there. Because of the I,
Yeah.
supposed to be in the accusative form, not in the nominative form. So that's why it is ungrammatical.
Thank you. Who just spoke? I want to actually note those that are. Who spoke now, please?
This is Dr. Bele, EA, Dr. Bele.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, that's just it. So it's high, the high here. And that is because expect, remember, would have to assign accusative case, but I is in the nominative form. The accusative form will be me, right? Adam expected me to ought myself, then it's fine. Because accusative case is assigned, but now with I, no. So case theory explains that. So you can see all the intricacies. Just this one sentence in 49A, we can see the different ungrammaticality that we can have explained by these different theories. So all these theories, it just shows how, interrelated they are and how they function within the underlying principle of the language. So parameters, all what we've seen so far are the principles, right? It's different principles that that guide the language that we speak, the underlying principles and the underlying representation of the language itself. But we remember that it's about principles and parameters. So parameters are basically, apart from the fact that we assume that there is a universal grammar, there are, of course, we know that languages can differ on the surface, and that's where parameters comes in, right? So there are languages that are SVO, like English, like Yoruba, like Igbo, like Hausa, like French. These are SVO languages. Why there are languages that are SOV, right? Where the subject, object, and then the verb comes last. Like Japanese, German, Turkish, Hindi, etc. So these are parameters. Underlyingly, we still assume that they have, similar structure underlyingly, but then on the surface, some things are going on, movement going on, and you have some transformation. And then the difference in word order, like we've seen in these two categories of types of languages, can also lead to the different parameter in the head position, right? So languages like Yoruba would be head initial based on VO, and languages like Japanese would be head final based on OV, that is the verb is the final position, basically. So head last or head first. So let's conclude. So what we've seen so far is that the principles and parameters theory actually offers a solution to the question of how children acquire the language, which Markable is, because we can actually collate, we can actually bring together the different rules that we saw in the earlier theory. We can bring them together and just look for, and just, explain it with models within the grammar. So we don't need to have many rules. All we need to do is just know the models, and then those models can explain the structure of the language, right? So the fact that language can be acquired with remarkable ease, that is what is called a Plato's problem, right? And we saw that the full range of linguistic possibilities is actually innate. It comes pre-specified in the child's brain, and all the child needs to do is just to set different parameters. So if I am a Yoruba speaker, then I know that it's just SVO like English. If another child is born into a Japanese community, right, he has everything he needs. All he needs to do is when he's exposed to the language, he sets the parameter to know that, okay, in my language, the verb ends. We have an SOV word order, basically. So he parameterizes, and that is what language acquisition is all about. So it's like everything is the intricacies, the mechanisms, the tools it needs is there innately, but then the parameterization is what we call language acquisition itself. Parameterizing and knowing what your language has and how it is structured, basically. So the next class, we'll look at the minimalist program. We've concluded principles and parameters. And the minimalist program, what it does is that now we want to go beyond explanatory adequacy. Remember that the principles and parameters is towards explanatory adequacy. We want to be able to explain the underlying structure of the language. For the minimalist program, what we want to do is we want to go beyond that. We want to see that it is not about just the language faculty. There are other things in the cognitive system of a human that actually interact with the language itself. So we must not, in a way, restrict language just to the language faculty. There are other cognitive abilities that actually also interact with the language faculty. All right, I'm going to stop it. That is the end of principles and parameters theory. Okay, no question. Good. I've taken a lot of time, really. So, in the absence of any question, I'm just going to stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you so very. Thank you so very much. I'll try to stop the recording now so that then we can just take questions.